I want to call out an important phenomenon that contributes to women carrying a high mental load, and this phenomenon is called kinkeeping. Kinkeeping is the idea that it is the woman's job to maintain the connection with the family. And we often see this in previous generations where women are in the kitchen together, they're the communicators, they're the connectors, they bring everybody together. And today, what that looks like in a partnership is that you are holding together both your family and also your partner's family. What does it look like in terms of tasks? You are coordinating when the holiday dinner is. You're making plans. You are responding to texts because we know that texts and social media bring in so much more ways of communicating with family members. And you are also the one who is sharing photos. You're responding to the group messages. You're giving more details to both sides of the family. And I don't know about you, but when we know that women already work 90 hours of paid and unpaid labor each week, more tasks on our mental load also becomes exhausting. Something that I have seen changing in the last 5 years as a clinician, something that wasn't there when I first started working with people, is the concept around the mental load. Admittedly, 20 years ago, when I was sitting in front of a couple and they were struggling with how things were being completed in the home, I would say to her, why don't we just make a list and then we can divide the list and see how it goes? And I realize now today that asking her to make a list is continuing to keep her high mental load and be the CEO in the family. That is not a fair division of labor, but instead she becomes the manager and her husband becomes the employee. And so something that we've also come to recognize, and this is especially due to the work from Eve Rotsky and all of her work around the mental load and the fair play system, is that we tend to view men's time as finite, but we view women's time as infinite, meaning that no matter how much you have on your plate, you always have time for more. And it's just not possible. Now, here's the challenge is that when it comes to navigating our partnerships, it can be especially tricky because if you are left to deal with both sides of the family, it can then add more exhaustion on top of you. But there's a catch here. Kinkeeping can feel really rewarding when the relationship with your in-laws is met with mutuality, with respect, with feeling like an insider, and also with healthy communication. We don't guilt trip, we repair, we work through conflict, we see everybody as having separate needs and coming together. But on the flip side though, many people in my community tell me about toxic dynamics that exist with their in-law family. These are codependency, enmeshment, boundaries not being respected. These also connect to guilt trips and manipulation, and also around the lack of respect and not being able to see the daughter-in-law as an insider and instead continues to be treated like an outsider. This is tricky because then as the kinkeeper, it becomes a load, it becomes a heavy task to do when it no longer feels good. And then what I tend to see is conflict in the triangle of the couple between him and her using heterosexual relationship, and then conflict also with his mother. So when I think of triangular relationships, it looks like this. And then when we are triangulated, we have conflict that shows up between people. Something that my husband and I did early on in our relationship before having children was that I had said to him, I can't maintain both sides of our family. It is too much. Completing a PhD, building a practice, navigating the household, it's just too much. And so early on, we had actually agreed that he would be responsible for communicating with his family, and I would own the task of communicating with my family. Today, I am noticing so many more couples are approaching their families in this way, not because they don't want to deal with their in-laws, but because it's a heavy task and there's just too much to deal with on the mental load. On the flip side, though, if the relationship is filled with tension, then that motivator to want to navigate your in-law family is going to be much lower. Where do we go from here? I think one of the first things we need to do is actually to call out this name to our partners. So if you are noticing that, oh, right, I am the kin keeper and this is something that's either difficult or rewarding, name it. Name it with your partner and let them know that this is something that's happening in your relationship. It's a good idea to make those invisible tasks visible so other people can see them. But then on the flip side, if it's not feeling good for you, then you need to find a new strategy. And new strategies need to come not from you deciding implicitly and not making it known to others, but instead making an agreement of what's going to happen next. I remember this one woman I worked with who had this aha moment in the conflict with her in-laws, and that was around acknowledging that everything she did for her in-laws was invisible. She was the one who was sending pictures. She was the one saying to her husband, "Have you called your mother yet? Did you reply to that text? Hey, we got a text. You haven't responded in the group yet." And the challenge, though, in that dynamic is that she was often viewed as the scapegoat, as the bad one for interfering with the relationship between son and his mother, when in fact, that relationship was already a distant one because of the dynamics that existed in the relationship already. If you're trying to step out of the kinkeeper phenomenon, then let your partner know that this is a task that you are not going to own anymore, and talk about what it means for them to take on those tasks. Is it about planning birthday events? Is it about who gets the gift for who? Is it about who's going to be responding to communication? And this might create a bit of tension with your partner, but tension at the start is normal when we create changes in our relationship. But you might also notice tension in another source, and that would be around tension with your mother-in-law. And I think it's important for people, whether they communicate it. So this could be a we conversation where all three of you have this conversation together, if that's how you can communicate with your mother-in-law. Or maybe it's the son goes to his mom and talks about how important it is that he's the communicator in the family and that all communication can come through him moving forward. I'm curious to hear from you if you've heard the term kinkeeping before and who navigates both sides of the family in your relationship. And if anything stood out for you today, let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.